Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the 5-1 Speedway Show. This is a brand new feature for us tonight. We are live. It is the first time we're trying this, so fingers crossed it works, people, because as I say, it's a brand new start for us and trying something different. Hopefully you've managed to catch up with the last episode of the show. Featured Ben Hopwood. It was a very entertaining and very interesting conversation. Sticking with the National League theme tonight, and also looking up into the Championship. As you can see behind me, you could probably work out who my guest is tonight. It is an up-and-coming hot prospect and one to watch. He did really well last season with riding on the continent in under 21, under 19 championships with Team GB and by himself individually. Please welcome to the show, Dan Jules.
Good evening. Good evening.
How you doing, fella? You good?
Yeah, all good, thank you. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to yourself, mate. Happy New Year. But how's things with you?
Yeah, not too bad. I'm just I'm coming up to like my last kind of full week at work. So that'll be like this week. And then I'll go to like a part-time shift. Just to start to then focus fully on my training, focus fully on the season coming up. So no, it's it's been a good off season. I've just been working since the end of the season, just trying to get some money in for for all my equipment for next year. So
Well, that's good to hear, mate. That's good to hear. I mean, I know you had a busy season last year, not just in the UK, but riding abroad. Like I said, you rode in France in the French league and things like that, and also under 19 European Championship. Okay, you were a reserve, but you still got two rides in that meeting, which is obviously good for yourself. I mean, traveling to was it Riga, wasn't it, for that meeting?
yeah, Riga, yeah.
Yeah.
But no,
How'd you find it all?
yeah, like last year was definitely my busiest season of racing. I don't know, I think I did about 60 meetings, over the year. So for me, it was definitely the most busy I've been. Like other than before that, I'd done like half a season in National League, obviously with my injuries and things. So for me to go from that, straight into almost like professional racing was really good. We had a positive season, and I finished off really well, which was great. You know, obviously I started off the season relatively well, and we were getting a lot of kind of European meetings or a few European meetings. And then obviously once that kind of finished, we were then just did championship, and I found it tough for a while. Just having Kent as my home track was quite tough, just for the simple reason is we weren't able to practice at all there. And we were kind of turning up, and it was almost like riding a away track every week. And but we started to get there. It took me a few meetings, but we started to get there with it, and my points started improving. And then we come into the National League, and it went really well from then on, really. So ideally, it was planning on me going back there for 2022, and I was felt confident and ready to do that, but unfortunately that didn't go to plan. And now I'm starting a new chapter at Plymouth, so I'm really looking forward to it. And my first championship meeting of the year was at Plymouth, and it was actually one of my best ones. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's a real professional team, and some of the stuff they got planned is really exciting.
Well, that's good to hear, mate, more than anything, because obviously Kent being a tight, tricky track, you're going to Plymouth, again, a tight, tricky track. Have you been able to get into this, Polish under-24 team at all? Have you managed to
No,
get a team?
no, I haven't been able to get a team for this year. I know a few of the other lads have been able to, but for me this year it was the offer didn't come up, so it was something that it would have been ideal to get into, because like even from the experiences I had last year, it was Europe's definitely the place where you got to ride, and the level of them guys out there are they're riding at such a high level, and to be riding against them guys every week, you're going to be improving. But no, it's something that hopefully we can do in the near future.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that door's going to be open to you in the few years' time, because you've got a bit of time on your side, I must admit. So you think you're going to be all right. But let's rewind the clock a little bit. How did it all sort of start for yourself? Because I've read a few things about it, saying that you wanted a bike for Christmas and all that sort of thing, and then all of a sudden Santa delivered and you got yourself a bike.
Yeah. Like, long story short was was about 2 at the time, and my nan passed away. And my dad didn't want, my pap or granddad sitting at home by himself. So it was something that, my pap used to take my dad to when he was a child. So, were like, oh, we should go to the Speedway, and the nearest place was Coventry. So, they went there and they took me along when I was 2, and it just came, a regular thing. We just went there every Friday, and, we went there until it shut, every week. So it was something that had always kind of been around. And, I was doing a lot of things at the time, like, I was doing football and things like that. And, like my dad had played football, for a few years, and it was kind of all that we'd known, as a family really was that. And, we'd done all these coaching badges, and everything was kind of set out for me to play football. And it got to about 5, I think I was. And, I'd obviously still been watching, Coventry, and I wanted to get a motorbike. And it got to a point, I got it for Christmas, Father Christmas, got me a motocross bike. And, it then got to a point where my dad just said, look, it's either, we've got to focus on one or the other. You either want to do motocross or you want to do football. And, I chose to do, motocross. And it went from there, really. We started off on the bottom, and, my dad had to learn it all from scratch, really, because he'd had no kind of experience with motocross, or, he'd had a road bike, but no sort of like, let's say maintenance as such. And, I'd had to learn it all from scratch. So, it's all credit to him, really, to where I am now. So it's, it's been a long time. I think, like I said, I started riding about 5.5. So, I did a few years of like motocross and just riding in like the local kind of tracks around me. And obviously still going to Coventry at the time, I still wanted to do Speedway. And kind of the next thing towards that was to do grass track. And there was a few people that lived, near me who also did grass track. They're a few years older, but got talking to them, and made the transition to grass track when I was about 6 or 7. Did kind of obviously like the motocross class. Then went up to the 65s, which was on a proper grass bike. And then I think I was about 8 or 9 when I bought a bike, or family bought a bike for me for Christmas again, a Speedway bike. And we started riding that, and didn't look back really. Just as soon as I got a Speedway bike, I just wanted to ride Speedway. I didn't want to do grass track or motocross. It was just, that was it, just riding Speedway. Obviously coming from like a working class background, it was just a case of riding when we could. And kind of the best track for me to ride at the time was Lydd, because it was open, every weekend, whether that be Saturday or Sunday. Dad had kitted out the van, with a bed and things like that, and we'd just, go down on the Saturday morning and sleep over and just try and get as much riding in as possible at the weekends. So it was, just literally just trying to ride as much as I can. And, with age, I just, bigger bikes, and just keep on progressing, really. And, that's it, really, is just keep riding and keep progressing.
Which is exactly what you keep doing now, mate. Apart from it's just on a bigger scale, and a few more tracks available to you. But I mean, I can relate to that. Coming from that sort of background myself, and riding highway, Eastbourne, even Eastbourne training track, Eastbourne senior track. All the places that you could ride, really. I mean, who was your sort of like rider you looked up to as a kid? Then, if you're coming from Coventry, then, because obviously that time there's quite a few boys you could look up to there.
Yeah, like when I was first going, you had like Chris Harris, which was pretty much, like Chris Scott and Rory and people like that, which you'd look up to as like your top riders for Coventry. As I started to get older, you start to watch more like the Grand Prix side. But I'd say like when I was younger, it was probably someone like Scott, or someone like Chris Harris, really, who was someone that I'd look up to. But then as I started watching more and the Grand Prix side, I was a big fan of Jason Crump. I liked him quite a bit. I liked Nicky coming like towards the end of his career, probably from about 2012. I started to like him a bit more, just through kind of I didn't necessarily like the way he rode all the time.
I think a lot of people can agree with you on that one.
Yeah. But I just thought, like, how kind of dominant he was in this sport. It's everyone's dream, to be that successful. And I guess like people like Tony Ricardson and that were a bit before my time. Like I never really saw them riding like live, because I think the first year I went to Cardiff was 2006, and I never really like remember it too much. Obviously, I remember like Chris winning it at Cardiff. But anything before then, I'm not really, don't really remember too many riders. But no, I get, I'd definitely say for me it was, Jason Crump, as a young rider, I looked up to.
Well, that's a good idol to ride to look up to, because obviously him coming back last season. Did you actually get a chance to ride with him, or was he injured at the time?
I didn't ride with him because when I was meant to race against him at Plymouth, but he got injured at Wolverhampton the day before, so I never actually got around to riding with him. But I had a few training days with him and things, and I think for his kind of record, which was like top 3 in the world for 10 years straight, is like phenomenal, really, and just the consistency of what he did, he didn't, win as many as Tony and things, but I think just being at, the highest level for that amount of time is, it takes a lot of hard work and, keeping up the motivation to, to do it every year, because, you can get to a point where, you see a lot of people, they'll get to a point and, they'll become kind of happy with that, and other people will overtake them. But to keep that up for, 10 years is, takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah, like anything, I think consistency is the key in this sport. Whatever level you're at, as long as you're consistent. And I mean, yourself, especially this year, you were fairly consistent. Okay, like anyone, you had the up and down meetings, but just before you got onto this season, you had a couple of seasons doing the British under-16s. Which was I suppose a good learning curve, shall we say, because you were against the likes of Tom Brennan at the time, and the Spillers and people like that. So I mean, you must have taken a lot of positivity from those sort of up and coming youth meetings.
Yeah, I didn't really like race too much, like other than on really a 500. Like I did like one season on a 125, and then I moved on to a 250, and then I did one race on that at Scunthorpe, but I just kept blowing them up, and it got to a point where my dad was like, we can't afford to keep doing it. So it was either like we stopped riding for a while to build up the money, or get me a 500 and set me off early. But so it was a bit of a no-brainer. I said, let's go into a 500, and I was on a 500 at just before my 13th birthday, and it did, because obviously moving from a 250 to a 500, yes, the bikes feel similar, but because everything happens a lot quicker on a 500, I did end up having quite a few crashes, just because I didn't have kind of that learning time on a 250, whereas you see a lot of lads now who would they'll be on a 250 for a long time, and then just before they go National League, then they'll move on to a 500. And I think having that learning on that kind of, because you get a similar feel to how the 500 feels, whereas I never really had that, but it was just that's what we could do at the time, and I wanted to carry on riding. So, and then I think I did, like, once I turned maybe 14, I did a couple of rounds on the 500s, and then I broke my wrist at Rye House in the final, so that kind of put me out for that season. And then the year after was when it was between me and Drew, and that was kind of my first kind of full year of racing, and then obviously the year after that was when I went MDL, and obviously I was in year 11 at school, so I did want to go National League, and it was just a case of parents just said, look, we want you to get your education comes first, and I had to suck it up, really. It was, I can't do anything about it. So got that out of the way. Obviously did a year of kind of MDL racing, which was, I think it was good, because as well, as much as I did want to go National League, I wasn't ready, because I hadn't had as much racing slash riding as what the other boys had had. I wouldn't have come into it and, let's say, picked off, or done as well as I did the year after. So I think it was, a blessing in disguise, really, that, we did cold back and I was able to just focus on my racing at kind of MDL level and keep up, riding different tracks and things like that. And, even just riding like Eastbourne and Peterborough, which was my main two, it's like polar opposites of tracks and, two tracks in which take two very different techniques to ride in. And we chose it. We chose them two tracks on purpose. And I think that year helped me, definitely develop. From the way I started riding that year to the way I finished was, I went from someone that maybe stay at reserve all year in the National League to someone that would eventually progress up to a heat leader. So I think it was the correct thing that we did, and then I was quite fortunate. I was in a fortunate position that season to have a lot of interest from clubs in the National League. So we kind of had a choice on where we wanted to go. And I went to Kent like for the first time. I think it was Bank Holiday Monday. They'd invited me down to ride the track, and because I'd rode quite a lot at Rye House, I was comfortable on that kind of shape of a track, and I went there and immediately felt really comfortable at Kent, and they treated us really well, and like supported us, not just in terms of my riding, it was just they supported my family, and anything we needed, they'd be able to help. And I think that was the main thing with Kent, is it wasn't just about the riding. They actually cared about the riders and the riders' family, which was I don't think many clubs would do that. So for me to start my career off with such a good club was I couldn't have thought of a better club to go to.
No, I mean, because with having Len at the helm, he knows how to treat the ride as well. Looks after you, tells you a few pointers, and things like that. But no, like you said, it's probably the best club that you could have gone to in National League, because it's well run, well organised. Like I said, Len Silver had years of experience, running Rye House's both the Championship / Premier League team and also the National League team. So you're walking into a good promotion. It's a promotion that will give guys like yourself and Vinnie Jones, another rider I know, Jake Mulford, people like that. They give them all chances and say, well, sink or swim, or if not, just be yourself, And for yourself, like you say, your first season, well, actually before that, you had two outings in challenge matches. You had one in the Laurels, and then you had one in the Lakeside match. I think the Lakeside match you had 5 rides and got 11 plus 1, and it's like, where's this sort of come from? It's like, it's just a kid doing MDL. All right, he's doing the right MDL, but then you go into the National League or a National League challenge, and he gets nearly enough a maximum, apart from one ride where you got a 0, but we can erase that one a little bit. So that must have been good for yourself then.
Yeah, like obviously I'd finished like my school by then, and it was weird because as soon as I'd finished school, the actual weekend of that, I broke my shoulder. So I was out then for a month or whatever I was out for, but I got invited to ride for Lakeside at Kent in a challenge match, and because I knew I was going National League the next year, it was just a good tester to see kind of where I was at, so we could go away in the winter and know what to work on. And I went there, and I just had no expectations. I was just riding my bike, and my first race I got pushed out wide, was last, and come from last to first, and I'll always remember that race. It was one of my favorite races, and that night went really well. It's I made one mistake all night, which cost me, like, let's say, a full maximum. But no,
live and learn.
And then obviously a couple of weeks later, I then got invited to the Laurels and come third, and from then on, I kind of knew from how the management was and how the fans treated me, and I'd go there and it wouldn't, it'd feel like like a place I wanted to go, and everything just felt right. So we signed there, and no, it's like I said, it was the right choice for me to do at the time. I think kind of the main downfall to Kent is just because they couldn't get on the track as much as we wanted, because we didn't have that opportunity to, do any testing or anything there. It was quite hard to, get comfortable, especially, as a rider who is moved up to the championship. It was hard to get, confident and comfortable around there because, if you're, when you're winning races, it doesn't matter kind of what track you go to, you're going to be confident. Whereas if you don't have that confidence and then you're not comfortable on a track, you tend to, make more mistakes and you start to overthink. Whereas, when you're confident, you just turn up to a meeting and put on your helmet and, you have that confidence to beat any rider. So, but no, we got there in the end, and like I said, I felt as though, I finished, the season as, was almost as, as well as I could. I think, in like maybe my last 5 meetings, I dropped about 2 points. So, for me, that was a great end to the season, and hope to, keep it up for next season, really. But like I said, I've spoke to Plymouth, and kind of the things that we learn from Kent. Kind of the things that we'd like to get out of it. I've spoke to Plymouth about it, and opportunities there. Sound good, and like I said, the stuff that they've got planned during the season, and going forward is really exciting things. So it's great to be a part of almost a growing club.
Yeah, very much is a growing club down there. I know with Matty Bates down there, laugh a second with him, and stuff like that, which is always good. But just going back to touching on the Kent stuff again, obviously affecting the championship stuff now. Like you said, when you couldn't get on the track, because your press and practice has always been an I-Wade because you've not been able to get on the track, which obviously it showed, I think, in the first few meetings of the championship side, when I think you struggled to, I think, win meetings or even get draws and things like that. Because I think only yourself really was the only one who had experience of Central Park, really.
Yeah, I think me and Ben. Obviously, Ben Morley, probably had the most experience of Kent. But no, it was tough at the start of the season. Especially like, my first meeting had a crash and, things like that. And we were just kind of, I'm not really someone to blame like the equipment, and I'll just keep putting it down to myself. I almost like I need to make it work. And it got to a point where, things did need to change, and, I had to try different things. So it took us, a few meetings to kind of understand it, and kind of, as much as you have experience on that track, the track always, sometimes the track can change with how the weather is, and the material it uses and things, like if it's not the same material, it can change. So it did it did change, and we'd from the experience we had in 2019, to then go, have almost, a full season off Kent, then come back, and there was a few things that we turn up in 2019 and the track will be, you'd look at the track and be like, right, it's going to be like this. And then you'd go out and it'd be, totally different. So it took us, a while just to get used to it and get used to just the level of, racing. And I think everybody says that the biggest thing in Speedway is confidence. And, if you have a confident rider, you're going to be doing, you're going to be riding well, just being able to go to the tapes and know that, that you have that confidence behind you. It is, probably the most important thing. And at times, I didn't have that, which was, kind of costing me. But, it's understandable at the level I'm riding at. And, at the end of the day, before this year or last year, I'd only had kind of half a season in the National League. So to go from, half a season in the National League to then riding, championship is, a real big step. But we were constantly learning. And like I said, eventually we got to the end of the year and, we were kind of, where we'd wanted to be.
Which is good because now you work off a base again to go up into, well, be more solid in the championship. We say out of the reserve berth into a second string, maybe touching heat leader, maybe might be a good goal, and maybe even getting Premiership outings, or something like that would be surely a good goal for you for next season.
Yeah, I think, I don't tend to kind of look at things that are out of my control. Just try and control the things that I can, which is, you know, my own kind of personal, you know, performance. You know, you can be in a team where you can have a really high average and still be at reserve, you know. So it's you know, I just try and focus on my own things and, you know, look at my own performance and see, you know, analyze myself and see, you know, what I'm doing or, you know, what I'm not doing is, you know, normally the case. You know, compared to, you know, what someone, you know, why someone's, you know, doing different things. And I think just being open-minded to, you know, what other people are doing and, you know, how other people ride it and things, because, you know, you can get kind of stuck in your own ways and, you know, you think that, you know, you're right all the time, whereas sometimes, you know, you have to be open-minded and, you know, look at what other people are doing and, you know, take advice from everyone. And, you know, sometimes, you know, it might not be the right advice, but, you know, you can take little bits from everybody.
Yeah, I mean, having someone like Scotty as your number one last year, even having Paul Hurry in the pits, you know, Cameron Heaps, you know, people like that, you can all draw off of what they know, so it would help yourself in the long run, you know, and things
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
it.
And then you
That's
go to someone like Plymouth, who again are going to have a strong team there again with Hans Anderson in the team. I mean, you can't get much better than. Sorry, it's probably not almost like the next level up from Scotty. No offense, Scotty, but it's a case of it is literally you'll be working with again someone who's who's won Grand Prix, been in Grand Prix finals and things like that, you know. So again, you can draw off that experience.
Yeah, I think that, like the main thing, like for me, is you know, I'm someone that you know, I can watch things. You know, I'm like a visual learner, and you know, I like to be able to watch things and, you know, pick up things that other people are doing, and, you know, just having that availability to be able to watch them ride and see, you know, kind of what lines they're doing and, you know, what they're doing at certain points and things like that. And I think, you know, that was definitely something that I found last year, was going from like the National League to the Championship. Is you know, a lot of the Championship riders are, you know, they're doubling up to the Premiership instead of, you know, almost riding National League and Championship. So, you know, you're coming up against a lot of, you know, top riders, and, you know, just being able to see kind of the stuff they're doing, you know, on the track and everything, then you can start to put that into your riding, and then that's when, you know, you start to progress and things like that. But like I said, I think being in a team with, you know, such good riders, and like I said, like you said, you know, such vast experience is, you know, something that will definitely help me, and, you know, you can take a lot of advice from them.
Just looking forward to this coming season. I mean, again, you're signed to do both the National League and the Championship. Is that sort of like your own personal choice? Do you think like one more season in the National League would do you some good, or is it just a case of, you know, test things out in National League, keep a good average in that, and then just plow on in the Championship then?
I think having like, for me, obviously, the biggest thing for me was, like, what I felt was like I didn't have that kind of racecraft or race experience compared to some of the others. And, you know, when I signed for Plymouth, you know, they said they were doing a National League, and, you know, I was instantly like, yeah, that's what I want to do. You know, riding there or racing there twice a week, whatever we'll be doing, was, you know, something that, you know, I wanted to do. And I feel, or, you know, that's what I felt was, you know, I just need to keep racing and, you know, keep learning about different lines and things like that, and just, you know, keep up my racecraft. Really, it's not really a case of you know, I want to spend a certain amount of years in this league or want to get a certain average. It's just a case of keep racing and you know, keep up that you know, experience, really, because as much, you know, you can practice as much as you want, but, you know, nothing compares to racing. So you know, I thought it was, you know, ideal, really, you know, being my home track. So you know, you're riding there a lot, and, you know, you're just getting comfortable. And I felt as though, you know, definitely in the National League, like last year, where, you know, you could have done with, you know, a few more meetings kind of in between to you know, to try new things and kind of feel like you're having less pressure and everything, really. I do think the more you ride in your home track, the better.
Oh yeah, like you say, and like anyone says, laps and laps and laps and laps is the key. I mean, like yourself. I mean, I have seen that you go down to Lid on Sundays when you don't have a meeting, just to go and try something, and and help the boys there, because obviously, there's a lot of kids go down there who are learning for the first time, which again is just giving back to the sport, which is great to see, mate, more than anything. But yeah, I mean, just turning to a different team when you went to go over the old over the river to go and ride in France. How did that sort of come about? Because that's sort of like, another French league's only just sort of getting going again, and things like that. How did that sort of come about? That's a really strange move.
Yeah, no, I got contacted by Larry Old midway through the season, and that they were looking for a rider to ride in one of their meetings, and it was, I remember just being on the way home from a meeting and got contacted, and literally with this, I think I rode at Kent on the Tuesday and the meeting was on the Saturday, and I needed to confirm by like 12 o'clock that night. So it was just a case of like, yeah, we'll do it, and go from there. And it was just, unreal. It was just totally different kind of atmosphere. It just kind of felt a bit more like the old, grass track days, really, of, you're in a field and, you got your gazebo out, and, everything was a bit more, chilled out. It was, a really cool meeting to be a part of. And, I did quite well. And, even as much as, the French league, it was, I'm racing against people like Adam Ellis and David Balaguer, who are, well respected riders in the sport, and you're not going to get that chance to race against them type of guys, very often. So it was, a great learning opportunity for me. And, obviously I made, because it's quite, obviously, because it's only 6-man teams, you have 14 heats. 12 of them are programmed, and then heat 13 and 14 are basically, I think, the two highest point scorers go into heat 14, and then the other two go into heat 13. And I made like heat 14 in both meetings I rode. So I was riding against, like the top riders. So I think David Balaguer, Adam Ellis, there was Nico Cavati, and riders that are well-established riders in in speedway. So to race against them, it's great experience. And it's just like I said, I really enjoyed the French league, and it was something that I hope to be doing soon.
So when does their sort of season start then? Is it before our season, or is it during the summer?
I know normally it's before our season. Like in the UK, but obviously with everything that was going on with COVID and everything, it was then kind of just meetings throughout the year when they needed it. I know last year they had 4 teams, which was then 3 meetings at home, 3 meetings away. Whereas I know this year they're kind of unsure of what position they're in. So we're still kind of waiting, to confirm anything over there for this season. But no, it was, it's a league in which, you do have some, top riders come through, like last year. Obviously, like I said, like Adam Ellis and that. And then in the next meeting I rode for which was at a different track. It was at Stephen Goray's dad's track, which is La Motte. So that was, La Motte was the second meeting, which was like totally different. It was, the track was massive, and like one straight went uphill, the other one went downhill. So it was, it was
it's a proper grass track then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite a big track. And obviously, kind of the good side to it is it's at a weekend, so they're kind of unlimited for time. So there was a meeting in the morning, which it was against Morizet, and that meeting had Chris Harris, Adam Ellis, and David Balaguer. So I went there in the morning and watched them, and you can kind of see the top of lines they're riding. And then in my team was Max Dilger, and Nico Cavati, and then we had Andre Smetana, myself, and Benjamin, so I'm not too sure. But no, it was, it was another good meeting. And because, like I said, because they kind of unlimited for time, they do like a 2 minute practice, or I think it's a 1 minute practice. So before the meeting, you go out and you practice. You get like almost 4 laps of practice. So at least you do kind of know what the track is. And then you have kind of 5 program rides plus your extra rides. So you're getting plenty of racing. And but no, like I said, it's just a real chilled out environment, and a great league to be a part of.
Well, that's good then. That's good to hear. And obviously, when you reel off those sort of riders that you're riding against, and also technically it's on a kind of like a neutral sort of track, because you don't ride there every week. I mean, apart from Balego and probably Adam Ellis, they're probably the most experienced ones sort of there. So again, riding on a neutral track, it brings out the best in both yourself and them, because they don't know what the setup is half the time. You don't know what the setup is, so you're just kind of guessing and winging it. So again, another learning curve, another learning experience. So are you hoping to get another call to go back to the French league then, or are you wait and see?
We've been, obviously I've been like stayed in contact with like L'Ariole, which was the team I rode for. Just they're just really nice people, and we got on really well with like the whole setup there. So we've been in contact, and talking about more than Speedway. So it was and they're just still confirming kind of what's happening with the league, what they're going to be doing regarding next year. But hopefully there should be some more information about that soon. But it was I'd definitely love to go back out there again. This year it was just such a nice, just a whole weekend away, and in France, and it's right down the south of France. I think it's 3 or 4 hours away from Spain, so it's really hot, and you're in the vineyards, and it's just a lovely place to go to.
So what I always saying, it's a holiday, but you ride at the same time. It's basically like what you're kind of saying, really.
Yeah.
But I mean, got a message there from someone on Facebook who's watching. So if
Tony.
Any guys who are watching, you can more than likely put questions in. So you can stop me rabbiting on. If you want to ask Dan anything, feel free to. I can show it on here, and then he'll hopefully answer your question for you. So just if you want to leave a comment or something, then and I see it, I'll put it on here so you can see it. But other than running the French league, you had a good individual sort of season last year. I mean, coming off an injury as well and things like that, it's it's going to be a busy time, and things like that. But you managed to get in, what was it, the under-19 final? I'll say at the reserve, but you managed to do the British under-21s, which you came third in. Yeah. So, I mean, that must be a goal of yours to try and win that for this coming season.
Yeah, like we started off the season, I got phoned up midway through the winter by Neil Thatcher, who said that obviously the year before we only had like kind of 2 meetings, which was the under-19s and the under-21s, and obviously the under-19s I come second. So then for the 2021 season, he phoned up and said, we'd like to send you to the European under-19 final, or the European Championships. And Europe's, I've never rode Europe before this season, so it was something I'd always wanted to do. And I got sent to Hungary, which was the first round, and it was meant to be like me, Drew, and Jordan Palin, which is obviously the podium. And then there was a lot of stuff going on with COVID and things like that, and we got asked to whether we all wanted to do it, and I was just I just felt like as though I couldn't turn it down. I'd wanted to go race in Europe for ever since I'd started riding Speedway, and the opportunity was there, and so we went to Hungary. We were all by ourselves. It was first time there, first time driving abroad, and I think it took us ages to get over there, because obviously you had the COVID, and you're obviously leaving Europe, so you have all the problem with the carnet and everything like that. So it was all a big learning curve for me, and because nobody in kind of the British Speedway had done it with the carnet, because it only just kind of come in, it was just a case of learning it as we go. So we were stuck at border control for a fair while, but we got there eventually. And I think from leaving our house to get to Hungary, it took us just over 36 hours, with delays and things. So, it was a trek, but like I said, the meeting, it was my first meeting of the year. And obviously coming from the season before, I'd only done 1.5 race meetings because obviously the under 21s, wrote myself off. So I'd only done like one full race meeting. So to go in there, and I wasn't really too, I didn't really know too many of the names of the European lads. It was just a case of I turned up and, a few of them because of what they did, from the earlier days. Some people turn up with some, amazing equipment, they got everything on the plate for them. And, I was just turned up and literally had no expectations. All I got told was, if you want to qualify, make sure you pick up points. You don't come last on any race and score double figures. So that was just the goal, was just, qualifying for Latvia. And, I went in there and did quite well. Obviously, I got 10 points. I didn't get any last places and still didn't manage to qualify. So it was a bit disappointing, really. But then, I then started, obviously the Polish Speedway was coming on. And I was like, some of these riders that I was riding against were riding in the extra league, and they've been riding, for 2 or 3 months beforehand. So it was, good to be riding against them riders and, to see the level that they're riding at and, the riders they're competing with was, a good kind of confidence boost for yourself. And then I think, so we did Hungary, obviously got first reserve for Riga. And then a few weeks later, I then got invited back out to go to Poland to represent GB in the under-19s European pairs. And again, that was, an amazing experience. Poland was just, it's been a place I've wanted to go for years. And to go out there and you just walk around like Gdansk where it was, and, you see people in Speedway t-shirts and there's an underpath where the whole thing's just full of old Gdansk Speedway riders. And it was just, such an awesome, place. And I loved it there. And again, that meeting went really well. I did practice and I felt, good in practice. It was a different track to what I'd rode before. It was, a lot bigger. Maybe not as what I thought the Polish tracks would be. But it was good, and I really enjoyed the track. And I was lucky enough to get two races. I think I did, because unfortunately Anders got injured. So then I got put in. So no, it was again great experience. You're riding with the top riders of my age in Europe, and you're constantly learning. And like I said, some of these riders, some of them have got Polish contracts. They're riding in first, second league in Poland, and they got so much more experience than yourself. So to be, racing with them and, even sometimes beating them was, just so much, you gain so much confidence from that. And then we went obviously to Latvia, and that was lucky enough because obviously it was such a distance. I had my dad, Rob Cousins, and my mum drove, and I flew out, so I was pretty lucky, really.
Oh, look at you, superstar flying already!
But obviously, on the way to Latvia, put it in the sat nav, didn't really think anything of it. Was driving, and then they got stuck in Kaliningrad, which is part of Russia.
Okay, yeah.
So they then got sent into this bloody Russian border control thing. So then they were stuck there for a while. So I was lucky I was flying out, to be honest. But no, it was a great experience. The track, obviously being reserve, I'd rode in practice and the track felt really good. I really liked it. It wasn't very big, kind of more of an English style track. It was quite narrow, wasn't very wide, and I really enjoyed the track and I felt good. And then as the night went on, the track started cutting up real bad. A lot of riders were crashing, and you could see a lot of riders were struggling. But because obviously you can only stand in one position, you couldn't see kind of the areas that were bad. And I got put in, I think maybe the third or fourth round of heats. So I just went there, literally had no clue on what the track was doing. It was just a case of doing it. And then in the first corner, my rear chain come off. I've rarely ever had that done. And so I'd only got one corner. And then I got put in the last round of heats because the other reserve broke down, so Argon then got put in again, come second in that race. And it wasn't like the track had got quite bad by that point. Like they had to do like half an hour's worth of kind of grading and packing it all back in. So it all cut up. But because of the other riders, like some of the better lads who obviously went on to, you know, do well, they'd got like a line sorted out. But because you couldn't see it from the position we were at, you know, it wasn't until you watched like the live stream afterwards, you go, oh, that should have been the line you rode. But you know, it was just a case of I was the first reserve, and if you get a ride, then you know you're lucky, really. So, but no, and then after that, it was just going to France, really, which was again, you know, like I said, it was great.
Well, just touching on that Riga meeting, yeah, I've seen the meeting back, and the track looked good for the first 12 races, and like you said, it did cut up quite badly. But I think that's because of the, like say, the style of the track being long and thin and flat and everything else. Again, which would probably suits your style, because you know you can easily ride a big track and you can easily ride a small track. You know, and things like that. So, but that first race, how did you feel going up to the line then? Was you sort of nervous about it, or was you just going to take it in your stride?
Because everything happened so quick, like, you know, 1 minute you're watching the race and then all of a sudden you put in, you don't really have time to think. It's just a case of literally, and especially for the second race, because like, once you've done, like, as number 17, you do your ride, then it's a case of the number 18 has their race, then you're ready. So I wasn't even ready to ride in the second race at all. It was like, didn't have anything ready. It was just, obviously we kind of destroyed a bike from snapping the rear chain, so it was like we'd got the other bike ready, but you know, it was just a case of, it was literally like, I think the second to last race or something, so it was like the number 18's gone out, and you know, I wasn't really like prepared to go out because I thought, you know, he's going to do it, and then obviously he broke down, so I was like, well, we need to get ready then. So I only had, you know, a few seconds to really get ready. But no, I didn't think anything of it. It was, you know, it's not as though I felt as though, you know, I needed to go and win this race, or I needed to win the meeting. It was just a case of, look, you're getting an opportunity to race. This is what you come here to. Just keep up the learning. You know, you're riding against some, you know, I think in the last race, you know, I beat an extra Liga reserve. So it was just a case of riding against them riders, and just seeing, you know, how them riders ride. So, like I said, I never really felt as though, you know, nerves as such. It was, you know, like I said, just a case of gaining some more experience.
Yeah, which is, again, all that matters. And I mean, that race, that when you got the second place, you were against Leon and Drew in that race. I think Drew was still in with a chance of podium or something like that, and then you decided to get in the way, and then I think he spun round or something like that, wasn't it? In that race.
It was a bit weird, really, because obviously, like, I made a terrible gate. I just stayed on the inside, but nobody was really riding the inside because of all the ruts. I was rode there and got into third, and then come into bends 3, and Drew just went super wide. It almost looked like, you know, we forgot to turn his fuel on or something. Just how, you know, how the bike cut out. And then I was just, you know, just in second, and, you know, didn't really think anything of it from there. It was just a case of riding and just gaining more experience, really.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we can do at the end of the day, you know, on that sort of track. And again, it's nice that it's not nice, but it is good as well that the track kind of chopped up a bit, because again, you got to ride it when it was at its worst rather than it's always at its best, sort of thing. But if you were in the meeting properly, do you think you would have got like more than 2 points? Do you reckon you would have got about 4, 5, 6, maybe something like
that? I think, you know, you'd hope that you would have. But, you know, like I said, I never really set expectations in terms of points, because a lot of things can happen. You know, you could ride the best you ever have and get the worst gate and, you know, spin up. So it's, you know, like I said, I only try and control my own, you know, individual, you know, self and the way I ride the bike, and keep learning, really. I never really set points goals or average goals, or, you know, progress up to a certain number. It's just a case of keep up your progression. And if you can look back and go, if you have a goal in mind, if you want to achieve something this meeting in terms of your riding, and I come away doing that, then it doesn't matter how many points I score. I'll be happy that I've done that, because at the end of the day, it's just the stage I'm at now is just a stepping stone, and to trying to become a professional. And what I do at this age isn't going to determine what I do 5-10 years down the line.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, exactly. It's good to know that you've got your head screwed on and you haven't got, like, you're not looking, like I say, 5-10 years down the line. You're looking at tomorrow, 2 days' time, sort of thing. You know what you're doing. Where am I training next, sort of thing. Where's my next ride going to be? Where am I going to be practicing, sort of thing. But we've got another question in, and it's from my dad. So it's just basically saying, "Hi Dan, if you had the chance to make one rule change, what would that be?"
Rule change?
Do you even know the rule?
No. I'm not rule changes. Yeah, I'm not too sure really. I guess the only kind of annoying part at times is like, because like last year especially, like sometimes we were allowed to come off the track. So like, if someone had a crash, then you're allowed to come off the track and go back to the pits. But then if someone just hits the tapes, then you have to wait on the track. So it was all like just quite confusing. It's like, either make the rule you're allowed to stay on the track if someone crashes, or whether if someone either stay on the track or come back to the pitch. And at times, especially at Kent, the pits are so far away from the track, it would just be easier to go, come back to the pits and change whatever you needed to. And especially in the National League, because we were riding at, the weather wasn't too great, you get bloody covered or whatever, it was easier just to go back to the pits. But I guess that would be the only thing I would change is, if you want to go back to the pits, then go back to the pits. At the end of the day, you have 2 minutes and you're accountable to them. If you want to go toilet in between them, then go to the toilet. It's entirely up to you. So I think that would be the only rule I'd change really, is as soon as the 2 minutes are on, you're accountable to that, and get to the tapes in time really.
Yeah, I do understand that rule, because it can be confusing. And with my dad being the clerk of the course at Eastbourne, he had a few of those sort of issues whilst we were running last year. So, but if any more questions out there, guys, feel free to just leave a comment on the YouTube or on the Facebook page and share it, because I'm sure we can get a few more things out of Dan before we finish up tonight, more than anything. So, but no, it's good to hear. I mean, going back to obviously when you looking up to like the likes of Rory Schlein and people like that, did you ever imagine that you'd be attending sort of like his training schools at Bellevue and things like that? I mean, how sort of beneficial are those to you now, looking back at those?
Yeah, I think definitely for me, like obviously when I was younger, like I said, I was a big Speedway fan. I'd love it. I'd look up to all the riders. I'd have my autograph book and things like that, and I'd ask riders for autographs, and then when I started riding, then you start to go on these training schools, go to Poltech, where you're involved with Ollie Allen, and all these, different things where you're involved with riders. And, sometimes you do look back and you're like, I'd never have thought that, you get tuition from them, and sometimes even ride against them. Like I had it last year where, I was in a race at Birmingham, and I was in between Chris Harris and Scott Nichols, and it was like, if someone would have said to me when I was 4 or 5 years old at Coventry that I'd be in a race with them in 10 years' time, or sorry, about 12 years' time, I'd have been like, what are you going on about? So, sometimes it is quite almost surreal to be in that position. But I think, at the time when you're riding, you don't think of that. It's not until, you look back and you're like, cool, that was quite cool to, to beat him or to be in a race with him. But no, it was, like I said, I think it is, because them riders have, been there and, they've done it. Some have reached, higher than others. And I think a lot of riders kind of know, what they did wrong and, what they change. And I think, at the end of the day, majority of people, they want to help you out, and they'll tell you kind of where they went wrong. And just so if you feel like you're going down a certain path, then you go, right, this is how this person felt when, why they didn't become as successful as they wanted to be. And this is the reason why. And if you feel like you're doing that, then you can change it. Whereas for them it might have been too late to do it. So I think just having almost their experience and telling us kind of where they felt they went wrong is a major bonus, really.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that will top off you run against Chris and Scott would be actually at Coventry. That would be the only thing to sort of top that, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it was quite unfortunate, really, because I was never really able to ride Coventry that much. I'd applied to be mascot for years and years and never, got round to being accepted as such. And I'd done one second half, which was actually my first ever race on a speedway track, was at Coventry. And then the next time I rode Coventry was on a practice day, and I was on my 125, and I think it was one of the rockers went, so I wasn't then able to ride. So it was a bit unfortunate because obviously the two chances, or well, I got one chance, but the second chance, I didn't really get to ride it, and said I was never able really to ride it too much. But no, it was obviously when it went, it was really unfortunate because nobody saw it kind of coming as such. It was just they'd signed pretty much all their team, and then all of a sudden they were gone, and you never really had almost like a farewell meeting or anything. It was just a case of they were gone, and that was it. So it's it is unfortunate because it's another track lost, in English Speedway, and you can't keep suffering things like that. I know obviously at the time when Coventry left, let's say they probably weren't in as bad as position, but we can't keep seeing tracks going, but it's nice to see some tracks coming back, like Oxford, and I know obviously I think Workington were looking at coming back, or Workington as another track or something. So it's nice to see that some tracks are coming back, and obviously I know like Swindon and obviously Eastbourne are thinking about coming back. So it's nice to see it, and we can't see English Speedway die out, and it's like I said, it's nice to see clubs coming back,
especially Oxford. You can't miss that out, because obviously with yourself, say, doing the two leagues for this coming season, they're in two leagues. You're going to probably go there maybe 3-4 times this year.
Yeah, obviously it's quite local to me. Like I think it's probably only half an hour, 45 minutes away. So it's one of the local ones to me, really. So I'm looking forward to going there. I never went there as a child or anything. I think it's probably I think they'd stopped riding as I was starting to watch it, if that makes sense. I've seen a few kind of videos of what the track used to look like, but it'll be nice to ride there. I've seen a lot of things on Facebook of what they're doing with the track, and I think it looks like a great place to ride, and it's nice to see people wanting to get involved with Speedway. Not a lot of people are doing it nowadays, and it's nice to have more tracks opening, and it would be great to ride another track.
Exactly. I mean, I was lucky enough to ride in that last year when they done the Conference League. I only did one meeting, and it's a good track to ride. Even when I rode there in the wet, it was still a good track to ride. But seeing that they're doing the track work to it by making it slightly wider as best as they can will only encourage good racing around there.
Exactly.
I mean, like you say, if you could watch YouTube videos of it from what it was, but how it's going to ride now is going to be completely different. But it's good to know that, as I say, Oxford coming back. I think with next year we're looking like hopefully Eastbourne will be back and Swindon back. And of course all the rumour mill about Odsal and Bradford maybe could come back, could not come back. Would be a good again. Then they said North Side with Workington. So maybe next year could be a good boom year for speedway tracks. Really is what Fingers we need.
Crossed. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, we can't keep losing tracks. Since I've been riding, we've lost a lot of tracks like Stoke and Buxton and Coventry, and so it's a lot of tracks are going under, which is not nice to see. And obviously, I know at the end of last year, a few tracks got saved, like Birmingham and Newcastle, and obviously Kent were a bit unfortunate, but they're still running out of Iwade, which is great to see. But like I said, we can't keep losing tracks.
No, like you said, with whatever was going on at Central Park, I don't know the ins and outs of what was going on there, but seeing Kent still riding, okay, Iwade's fantastic. They've had Conference League there before, So I mean, even if it's only like one season there, it's still a track that's running. It's still a club that's running.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't know the guy who's really running it, and I think he was one of the sponsors of maybe Kent last year, wasn't he? Something like that. So again, it's good interest and keen interest more than anything.
That's it.
So as we're talking about tracks, what would be your sort of ideal sort of speedway track to ride then? Is there one that you would like to go and ride? Is there one that you do ride now, or is it just a case of you could think of one off the top of your head?
I think I've never really had overly like a favorite track. I've had a few that I like over others. Like for me, like I hated Stoke. I went there twice and I made about 3 laps and that was it. So never a track I like going to. But I think obviously growing up on Lyd, Lyd would probably be, like my all-time favorite track. I'd go there like even now. I wouldn't have been there for a year, and it, when I go back there, it feels like going back to, like your second home type thing. So I always feel comfortable there. And for me, again, Ryehouse was another track in which I'd done a lot of laps around. Like I'd had a lot of bad crashes there, and it took me a while to, I hated the track. I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to ride there, and it took me a lot of time, to work on, my psychology and to ride there and get comfortable there. And by the time, I'd rode there for 2-3 years, and it then become, one of my favorite tracks. So for me, I'd say, someone like Lyd or Ryehouse was, my favorite track just because I'd rode there. But then kind of moving forward was then when I went to Plymouth, I felt comfortable there because of the similarities to, Ryehouse. I enjoyed Eastbourne a lot. I enjoyed riding there. And then I also enjoyed, going to the bigger tracks, like especially, Gdansk. I really enjoyed it there. Places like Bellevue and, the place where I rode in Hungary. I'm not going to attempt to say it.
Go on, try it. Go
on. But no, it was, a great track, and I like different challenges, and I like to try different tracks and learn different techniques. So for me, it was not necessarily about the track; it's just about learning and getting better at that type of track and getting a technique, really.
Yeah, that's good that you're like a rider who can just adapt himself to any sort of track, which is exactly what you need in this game nowadays. So obviously looking forward now to next season and the season's on. I know you don't like looking too far in the future, but if you could pinpoint where you'd like to be, sort of like in maybe 5 years' time, where would Dan Gilkes like to be?
I think you have to look towards moving out to Europe and riding in Poland and Sweden and places like that in which to become a successful speed rider. I think you have to go to them places. There's a reason why riders are riding there nowadays, is because to keep your ability high, you have to ride against the best riders week in, week out. And unfortunately, you can't do that in England at the moment. That may change in the near future. And I hope it does. But at the moment, if you want to be riding against, world championship level riders, you have to ride in places like Poland and Sweden. And, every rider's dream is to, ride in the world stage, and, you'd do you'd ride anywhere, you'd do anything to, to reach that goal. So for me, it was just literally, wherever I could ride to become the best spear rider, that's what I'd do.
That's great to hear it, mate. Fingers crossed you can get your foot in the door in Poland.
Yeah.
Or maybe even somewhere like Sweden. Go somewhere a bit different where not everyone else is sort of heading, that sort of thing. But I think we're going to wrap it up for tonight, Dan. It's been
no worries, that's fine.
Great having you on the show. I thought it'd be a good insight to how the season's been, and maybe we can have a catch up at the end of this season to have a little look back at what happened this year, this coming season,
definitely,
and things like that. But thanks for everyone who's watched tonight. It's been an interesting experience doing it live. Thanks to Dan for letting me do it, because I know we had a conversation beforehand. But make sure you like the page that I'm broadcasting on. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. This was very much last minute sort of decision, but maybe as it's worked out all good tonight, we can have another live show with someone else. But again, it'll be a case of if the other person wants to do it. But make sure you've liked everything so far, watched everything, listened to it, and hopefully this will be out very, very soon. Dan, thanks for your time tonight, mate.
No worries,
Appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you.